Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here with us for this session on reports and communications. As you know, Additio is a powerful and robust solution for teachers and for schools. One of the things that we try to do as well as possible is to give teachers and empower schools to be able to communicate with families, to be able to communicate with students, and to be able to give teachers the tools that they need in order to be able to give the kinds of assessment and feedback that students need to be able to achieve their learning outcomes. So today we'll be taking a quick overlook at one of the newest features that we have. It's actually still in beta, for creating report cards. So this will be interesting in particular to those of you who work in the administration side of schools. In particular, if you're an IT coordinator or if you're a teaching and learning coordinator, this session will be of particular interest to you. But otherwise, it's also good if you're a teacher to just sort of see how the different components behind Additio, how they all sort of come together to be able to create powerful analytics and powerful reporting options for you. So I'm going to get started by sharing my screen and just sort of quickly reminding everyone what's sort of happening in the background before you actually create a report. Just a quick reminder of everything that we've got going on, in particular with our grade book. So the teacher grade book is, of course, the center of a lot of what we do with Additio. And as you know, as an Additio user, our grade book gives teachers a wide variety of options for inputting assignments, different kinds of assignments, and also importantly, different kinds of assessment metrics and tools. So for instance, in this quick example for an art history class, we can see that we can have numerical values, but the numerical values can be accompanied by different kinds of icons, for instance, that can transmit additional kinds of information that'll be useful both to the students and families, but also for the teachers to sort of keep track of the different things that they've noticed in the learning journeys of their students. If we go quickly to this, I'm going to just sort of remind you what we have in our main options from the menu. We also remember that we have different assessment tools, and within these assessment tools, we have our rubrics feature and the quizzes feature, all of which are going to play a very important role in the report cards that we can generate from the administrative side of things. Because ultimately, what you do with the report cards will be bringing the data in from all of these different sources. So it's just I'd like to start by just reminding everyone that with the Additio, you can capture data from various different points in the student's learning journey, and all of this data can later be exported into different kinds of reports. One of them in particular being the report cards, which we'll be seeing today. So this grade book, of course, is part of the teacher's view of Additio. But now I'm going to switch over to the administrative side of Additio in Additio for Schools. So from within our Additio Center's dashboard, remember that we have in the menu, we have all the options that that we're familiar with for students and the base groups and public stories, etc. And today we'll be looking at the option for report card templates. Report card templates, as I just mentioned, is a very powerful tool to be able to quickly and easily create very visual and very complete report cards. So we're going to go ahead and get started with an example for a fictitious 10th grade group who's just completed a quarter and is ready to begin the administrators are ready to begin reporting to families the results of quarter three. So I'm going to start by clicking on the report cards option from the menu, and then you'll see that I already have a quarter three report card template that's been created. By clicking on it, I'll come in and I'll see this example of a report card, which we'll be walking through slowly. At first, we're going to look at all of the different elements that make up a report card, and also just sort of consider, again, how much data we can pull in from different sources to make our report card as extensive or as brief as we want, with all of the kinds of information that we would want our students and our families to be able to have access to. And then I'll be showing you after this initial design element of how we can put these different pieces together in the template. I'll be showing you how to connect it precisely to those data points, to those sources of data, so we can populate the fields with all of the information that we require to actually generate the final report card, which we would be sending off to families and to our students. So first, I'll walk you through this pre-designed template just to give you an idea of what it can look like. And then I'd like to show you some of the tips and tricks for how to generate these report cards easily. And then maybe we'll also be able to look at an example of a different kind of report card, just so that you can see how many options there are available to you. So I'd like to start by first showing you that on the left side, right, we have our widgets panel, which is all of the elements that we'll be using to populate the template with the design elements that we require. You'll notice that we have everything from text to images, forms, different shapes like lines and rectangles, different kinds of tables that we can put in, and also, of course, different kinds of charts, which will be very useful to be able to show the progress of our students over time. So on the left hand, we've got our widgets. Now, whenever we use a widget, we'll be able to use the editor that's over on the right to be able to fine-tune the widgets for the design to match our particular design interests. And every element that we use in our every widget that we use can be edited in a different number of ways. So for instance, if I were to click on this first option here, you'll notice that the edit function opens up, and we have different options for the font, for the size of the font, the text that we've used, colors, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be looking at this in detail in a second. And then on the bottom, I'd like you to also notice that we have the option for inputting the data, right? So this is going to be the main panel that we'll be using to tell our template where it's going to pull information from when we are generating our report card. So in this example, in this pre-designed example, you'll notice that I have on the very top part, I have the name of the school, which I've inputted manually with text, although you could just pull that in automatically by connecting it to a data source. And then I've gone ahead and I've added, some of the details of, what grade we're talking about, what quarter we're in. Over on the right, I've put in the logo. We'll have options for the names, and then just some background, the mission and values of the school, the purpose of the reporting, a column for the marks and the grades, and then of course this little handy bar chart. So These different elements, which you'll notice over have the corresponding editing elements over on the right, can be brought in quite easily, which I'll be showing you in a few minutes, so that you can see it, creating it from scratch, how it actually all comes together quite easily. But first, I'd like to just quickly walk you through some of the basics of how this template is set up, how it's connected to the elements that we have on the right side of our screen, and sort of how it's connected to the different data sources in the background. So for starters, if I click on this on my picture here, on this logo, you'll notice that I have over here, over on the right, I have an image URL where it's where it's pulling this image from. You'll also notice that I had a pre-loaded logo here from before, which I've decided to change. So you can change this logo anytime, any amount of times that you need. It's very easy to use. Really, all you need to do is use the image address through the URL, and you're done. On the bottom, of course, you'll notice that we have the different buttons to choose the position of our image. For instance, if we have text that is being overlaid on top of it, or if we want something to appear behind it, maybe perhaps a shape or some other design element that we'd like to use and to embed. And of course, we have our delete button in case we'd like to just switch over the design of the logo entirely. Over on the right, you'll notice that we have the name. It says predefined data source, predefined on both. And these two tables are linked to the data source that we have configured over on the right-hand side. Over in the data source panel, we have the student data surname and name. These two text boxes are pulling information from these two data sources, which I'll explain in a few seconds. These design elements down here, of course, are actually just that. They are text boxes, and we have shape boxes that we put together to sort of match the color scheme that we have in our logo, to sort of give it the same unified look and feel. Then on the bottom, we have our marks table. Right now, we're only seeing example numbers. These are being linked over here. If you'll notice in the data source panel, this table is linked over here to this grades table. And if I click on the pencil, you'll see exactly what this is being linked to. We'll get to that in a second. And then, as I said a little while ago, on the bottom, we have we have a little bar chart. So this is the template, the way that a template will look after you've created it, and what you can do with the panels over on the right. But what I'd like to do now is just sort of kind of walk you through creating a similar looking template from scratch, so you can get an idea of how easy and how user-friendly the report card module really is. So again, I'm going to come over to our main menu. I'll click back over here. And the first thing that we're going to do, as you can probably imagine, is on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we have a plus button, which we will use to start creating our new template from scratch. So I'm going to title this one, let's assume that we've already finished Q3, we're at the end of the year, and we are in Q4. So I'll go ahead and give this new template a title, and I will click Save. And as soon as I do that, we are taken to our blank template, where we can do absolutely anything that we'd want. We can use any sort of design principles or elements that our school has to keep the look and feel and the branding of our institution. So as I said, over on the left, we have our widgets panel where we will be choosing the different design elements to create the template. And over on the right, we have the editor panel, which will help us fine tune those widgets to look exactly the way we want them to. And of course, the data source panel to pull the information from the different modules that we have. So I'm going to start by dragging a title over to my template. And I will, as soon as I click on the element, you'll see that the panel on the right opens up, just as we saw in our example previously, and we can begin editing. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'm going to change what the text actually says. And I'm going to change this to the name of a school. So for example, so I'm going to just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And I think I want my text to be centered. So I'm going to go ahead and center that. And then because of the logo that I'll be using, I'm going to choose a color, maybe something like for the words will be in white, but the fill color will be in a blue. So maybe something like that. And then because of the sort of the design principles that this school might have, maybe on the bottom, I'll go ahead and I will drag another title on over. And I'm going to write the title of this particular grading period and a document, right? So we're in Q4, so we'll call it Q4 progress report. I'm going to go ahead and make this the same size, make sure that it's aligned. And perhaps for this one, I'd like to just sort of change the elements just ever slightly, like maybe, actually, no, we're going to use white for this, but maybe a lighter blue for the background. Maybe adjust this over here and center the text. And excellent. And then because we like to keep everything with the proper dates, just for our records, I'll go ahead and I'll add this text box over here. And over on the right, I will go ahead and change I'll add the title. I can get in here. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and remove this here. And one of the functions that you have, you can easily copy or duplicate an element with a right click. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And I'll add this over here, but I'm going to change this. Obviously, I don't want it to repeat. So I'll change it to today's date, which is 25. So it's May 25th, 2023. Okay, so I've got the name of the school, the quarter that we're reporting on, and the date. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the logo for the school. So I'm clicking over on the left on image, and I'm simply dragging it to the right side of where it is. So I'll bring it in, and here we go. I'll adjust the colors slightly, and that looks about right. Feeling good about that. So I'll leave it there. And I'm going to add a line over here in forms on the left. drag it to maybe make a little division in our document. Excellent. Change the color. And you know what? Maybe we'll go ahead and make this a little thicker. Okay, so that looks okay. And then on the bottom, actually, instead, beneath the title, I think I'm going to add the name of our students. So let's go ahead and add this box over here. And it doesn't have to be quite so big. So I'll make this a little bit smaller. Just going to be a first name, last name. Going to duplicate the element, drag it on over here. That looks good. We'll come back to that later so we can populate that field. And there we go. So we've got our header the way that we want it to look. And so now we will add a couple of elements. Typically, schools will probably have their mission and their values somewhere in their reporting documents. So I'm going to go ahead and add a rectangle right beneath that line. Let's place it here. This looks about right. We want it to match our color scheme, so I'll go ahead and add our original blue over here. Actually, we might want to use maybe a lighter blue. That might be a little too strong. Let's use that one. And then we want to give this this element a title, right? We want folks to know what it is. I'll go ahead and grab this text, and I'm going to call this the mission and values. All right. And I'll change the text. You'll notice that we can't really see it because of the color, of course. I'm going to change the color of the text to white, and maybe we want it to be bold. I'm going to center it, and that is starting to look a little bit better. Place it in the middle. There we go. Mission and values. And then I will grab some more, a different text box so that I can add the actual mission statement. And we'll come over here. And I'm going to go ahead and just quickly write what a mission statement would normally be. So the American School of Valencia fosters students' well-being and curiosity to participate in a global community. Okay, I don't know if that's actually what the mission statement for the school might be, but it sounds okay. So we'll change the color to white. And this might not be the best. Maybe I might want to drag this a little bit out over here like this, place it in the center. Excellent. And then I'm going to go ahead and center that. This looks good. But now I feel like maybe the square is a little too big. So let's make this just a little bit smaller so that it kind of makes more sense. Something like that, maybe. Okay. This might work. Maybe we can move this just slightly over here, maybe. And then maybe grab that. All right. Okay, so we have our mission and values, and then maybe typically you might have like another box that might explain what the purpose of the quarter progress report is. You could go ahead and do something very similar to what we just did now. But I'm going to go ahead and start with bringing in the chart for our grades. So I'm going to go down here over to tables. We have the marks table. I'll go ahead and grab it, bring it in over here, and adjust the size slightly, maybe to this. I'm not sure that I'm going to need 3 rows, rather 4 rows. I might just need 2 for my 2 classes, my math class and my art history class. So you'll notice that with every element that you click on, right, that you have enabled, you're over on the right, the editing tools will change, right? So if I'm clicking on this, which was text, and from the title element, you'll have those kinds of options. And in fact, now that I'm seeing it, it's reminding me that maybe what I want to do is go ahead and round the corners a little bit, right? So then we have got rounded corners. Let's do that for everything in our header. Excellent, something like that. Nice. Okay, so back down to if I click on the box, for instance, remember that we have these options over here. And of course, if I click on our table, let me just adjust the placement. If I click on the table, then I have options that are specific to the table. So I had 4 rows originally, and I'm thinking maybe I don't need 4 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and remove 1. Let's adjust the size. And okay, it's looking a little bit better. But I'm thinking I might need an additional comment because I don't want my report to only have the final grade and maybe a project grade or something else that's relevant. I wanted to also include perhaps teacher comments. So I'll go over and I'll add a column over on the right. So we've got our 4 columns now and our 3 rows. And this looks like probably something that we'd be able to use. So in this first part now, you'll notice just how quickly we've been able to start putting all the different elements together and just really easily and intuitively creating the visual aspect of what our report will be. Now, of course, you'll also have realized that right now we have not yet brought any data into our report card. So with that in mind, you'll probably remember from my explanation a little while ago, to be able to do that, we'll have to link each element that we want populated with specific data to that data source. So we'll start off with the first 2 that we had added to our little template. So we have these 2 text boxes that I'm going to want to link to the name and last name of my students. So how would I do that? Well, I'll simply click on the text box and then down over on the bottom, and actually just make sure that our text appears in black. Over on the down here in the data source panel, I'll go ahead and click that. And we're going to now activate the different sources, the different data sources that we can choose from for our entire template. So for this part, we have the general data. And of course, we can pull in like the name of the school, address, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to select anything from here. Well, we can go ahead and select the name of the center. It's not necessary because I've already typed that in manually, but I could have simply have activated it through here. Then you'll notice that we have a second tab for student data. And here, the ones that I'm interested in for this particular report are the last name and the first name. So I'll go ahead and activate that. All right, excellent. And then the third option, the third tab, we're not going to use quite yet. This is for graphs and tables. We'll use that in a second. So this is what I want for right now. So I'll go ahead and click that, click save. And then down here for this one here, because and this will change, this will vary from one school to another, but perhaps in this school we want first name, last name. Some schools want last name, first name. Personally, I'm more used to first name, last name. So I'll go ahead and I'll select name from my options. And you'll now notice that the box has automatically been changed. It has this link icon, and it says that it's being that it's a predefined field, which means that it's linking to a data. It'll link to a data source. And then for my second box, I'll go ahead and click on surname. So now I have my first name and my last name being pulled in. That'll be pulled in from a particular data source. Okay. So now down here on the bottom, our marks table, I'm going to go in and select that third tab that we had seen a second ago that we hadn't activated yet. So we have the data for graphs and tables. So I'll go ahead and I'll click that. And I'm going to create a group, right? Because it'll be lots of different things that'll be populating this one table. So the first thing I'll do is I'll title this. So I'll call this grades table. And I'm going to go ahead and add an item to this table. The first thing I'm going to select perhaps is the name of the class, right? So I'll call this subject. And this isn't going to be a specific text for each student. It's going to be a common text for all students. Okay, then I'll come in and I'll add a second item. And this one I'm going to call, I'll call it final grade. And I'll come in over here. And this is definitely, this one, because of what it is, I want it to be a number. Now, just a quick note, this example will have a numerical assessment criteria associated with what we're reporting. But remember that Additio is a super robust a platform for assessment, meaning it doesn't necessarily have to be based. You don't have to use only summative elements. You could use qualitative or formative type assessments. So you could be pulling in only things like comments, icons, or other forms of assessment that aren't necessarily a numerical summative type assessment. So just remember that this is just one small example of what you could do with this module. So I'm pulling in the final grade and the number. Then I'm going to add another element, and this one I'll call perhaps feedback. Of course, it could be anything. And I'm going to use the icon feature for feedback. And then maybe I'd also be interested in having some sort of text associated with the report. So I'm going to call this comments. And this is, in fact, going to be specific for every student. So you'll notice that, of course, the subject is common to every student, but the comments will be specific for every student. So this could be as extensive as I would want, but this is, it could be longer, it could be more complex, it could be any number of things. But for this example, I'm going to keep it the way that it is now. I'll save it. And over in the data source panel, you'll notice that now we have the grades table option, which we can now go ahead and select. And as soon as I activate the grades table option, you'll notice this little box here that says configure. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on the gear, and it's going to ask me, the first thing it's going to say is, what do you want to link by? Do you want it to be by rows, or do you want it to be by columns, which in this case is going to be what I'm going to select. And so, of course, in column 1, I'm going to go ahead and click subject. Column 2, I'm going to go ahead and click the final grade. Then I'll select feedback, and then finally I'll select comment. So these columns will correspond to these fields that I had previously set up. So I'll go ahead and I will click save. And so now, and also just a quick reminder, whenever you make changes to your template, make sure that you save your changes. You never know when something might happen, and you might lose connection to the internet, or you might the power might go out. You never know. So go ahead and save your changes every time you make them. So now I'll have my grades table will be linked to the information that it's going to be pulling from. So this is just a quick, brief example of how you can build something from scratch into the template and have this ready to go. So now we're ready for the second part. Okay, so we've got our template. Remember that this right now, we are simply building the design, and we're setting up the first steps, or rather the steps that we need to be able to pull information into this template. But the second step, of course, is to configure our classes, our groups, to be able to send the information over to our template. So now I'm going to switch over to our base groups tab. And this is the group that I'm working with. So I'll go ahead and I'll click that, open it up. And then over on the top right-hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and select the report cards feature. And we'll have the quarter 3 and the quarter, the Q3 and the quarter 3 options. Now, when you select these, this was the example that we had seen before. You'll see a quick summary of what your report card will look like. Now, when you create this this feature, once you've created the template, the things that you've done to be able to pull it in, I'll just show you quickly over here. This is the step that you would need to be able to pull information in to your template. General data we'll leave alone. We don't really have to do anything with it. In the data for graphs and tables, we're going to select the classes that we would have to link to. So for instance, if I were to come in and not have anything associated, I would simply type in, put the cursor in, and I'd see, okay, art history, that's one class, math would be the other class, and that's okay, I'm ready. Then I'd go over to visualize student data over on the right. And this is where we would start pulling in the information for our students. So I'd go ahead and see my roster. My class roster is here. I'd go ahead and I'd click on the first subject that I have. And this is where I'm going to start to select where the information is being pulled from. So in this case, the final grade. Actually, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and click over here. We'll see that we've got, this is the first important grade that I want reflected in my report card. So I'll go ahead and click that. It had already been populated. For this one over here, I'm going to go ahead and click and I want draftsmanship to come in. And so you'll notice that now it's pulling in the information. Remember, where is this information coming from? The information is coming from our grade book. So you'll notice that I have this category. I have the category of draftsmanship, and I have the category of easel painting. These are the two grades that are being pulled into the report card right now. So I automatically selected it and it came in. So this grade is corresponding to these grades that I just pulled in here. Then for feedback, you'll notice that I have a column that's separate. It isn't part of the categories, the easel painting or the draftsmanship category. It's a separate column. This is what I'd like to pull in. You'll notice that these are obviously, they're icons. It's not a numerical value. It's not a text value. And I will be bringing that in over here. So I'll click on this and I will look for feedback. Here it is, apply. And there we go. It brought everything in together. And then comments. Of course, comments, we want them to be personal and specific for each student. But in this case, I am going to simply, for the sake of time, I'm simply going to add in something that can be applied to everyone. This little option here is very handy. Jump to the next student, and that way you can just click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in for all of my students. And I am ready. So if I come back up here, I'll notice that I have art history. And then I have math. So I'm going to go ahead and click follow the same process. One of the major grades. If I go back to my grade book, if I go over to my math class, I'll remember that, well, one of the things that I had done was work on a project with them. I divided this course into projects and exams. So I'm going to first pull in the exams grade. So sorry, the project grade. Go ahead and click that, and there it is. And then I'll go ahead and I'll go to the grade for project. Excellent. And then feedback, which was for the collaboration column. So I'll go in and I will select collaboration. And of course, again, the comments, sorry, I'm going to click over here and I will say, great effort. And I will do the same as I did before. And there we go. We've got everything pulled in. We are looking good. So I'll go ahead and I will close that. Now, once you've finished your pulling everything in, you'll be able to visualize the report card, and then from here you can go and check every student. Down the bottom, you'll notice that it's pulling in all of their grades. And once we have verified that everything looks the way that it needs to look, over on the top right hand, you'll notice that we can select actions, and we'll be able to download either a specific report or all reports. And then as an administrator, I'd either send it out to everyone or hand it in personally, whatever the school's policy for handing out progress reports is. So that is a quick overview of how you can go ahead and create these kinds of report cards. As you've seen, it's super easy. Also, keep in mind that your report cards can look like any number of things. It doesn't have to be like the examples that we just saw here. It could look like anything. You could have different kinds of graphs, or different kinds of text that accompany your other values that you're including in the reports. For schools that work with standards and not exactly with grades, you can add all sorts of types of descriptors and contextual information that might help parents understand what they're looking at when they receive their progress reports. So again, just remember that Additio is based on the principle of helping students achieve their learning objectives, on helping families understand their children's learning progress, and also in allowing and empowering schools and teachers to customize everything that they do in their day-to-day work to fit their particular needs. So whether it's the grade book, or if it's a particular kind of report, or if it's a design element, for example, in the templates that we just saw, whatever it is, we firmly believe that we should empower our students, our teachers, our schools, to have these customization features for them to be able to communicate exactly what they feel they need to communicate. So we hope that this was useful. We appreciate your interest and your time in learning a little bit more about what we can offer in Additio for Schools. We'd like to remind you that we have a special offer for the summer. If you sign up before the 31st of this month, you will receive a free license until September. So this is a great opportunity to register and experiment and try new things. We'd love to see more of you experimenting. If you have any suggestions or any questions, please always feel comfortable in reaching out. And of course, you can find us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're everywhere. Make sure that you check out our video library on YouTube. You'll be able to, obviously, after we finish recording this video will be there, but you'll find all sorts of tutorials and webinars and just great resources to get started, or to dig deeper into the many options that we offer through Additio. So thanks again for your time. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye now.